Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make these miniature paper mache pumpkins, and the hope is that you have most of these items laying around the house that you'll need to make this. I started with a cardboard egg carton, just ripping it up into tiny pieces. This is from an 18 pack, and that should be more than enough for what we need today. This is a great project to sit in front of the TV and just rip it up while you have the time. And before you know it, it will be ready for the next step. Next, you're going to want to take some boiling hot water and pour it into the cardboard. You really want to make sure that all the pieces are saturated. Mix it up as best as possible. I ended up having to go back and add more boiling water to this. It doesn't really matter how much water you add because eventually we will be draining this. Here I'm just adding more water, really making sure that everything's saturated. We really want that cardboard to break down so that we can eventually blend this all up. I let this sit for about an hour. What I'm not showing is that I took a stick blender or an immersion blender to chop all of this up while the water is still in it. And once that's finely ground up, I took a linen cloth and a colander and dumped all of the paper mache into this. We're going to use that linen cloth to try to squeeze out as much of the water as we can. We really want to remove a lot of the moisture. And these cloths I got on Amazon. It was like 6 of them for $12. They're great for this project. Now take the cardboard pulp and wrap this up in the linen cloth and form it into a ball and take the end and twist it to get as much of the water out as possible. You're going to find that you're able to remove a lot of the moisture. Just keep going until you feel like you can't possibly get any more out. Again, you could leave this sitting in the colander overnight, but if you're impatient like me, then you're going to want to get started right away. Once you're done squeezing all of the water out, you can remove this from the linen cloth. And now you just want to take this and break it up the best that you can. Break up any of the big chunks. That's what I'm doing here. Just trying to break it up with my hands. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the smaller pieces that you can break it into, the better for the clay. Now that we have that done, we're going to be adding in some school glue and some joint compound or spackle. And I didn't exactly measure this out, but I'm going to say that I used about a little less than a half cup of the school glue and about an equal amount of the joint compound. And as you make this a few times, you're going to find out what works for you and what kind of a consistency that you like, so you can experiment with how much you'd like to be adding. I just use my hands to add in the joint compound, and now we're going to mix this all together. It is very messy, but if you have done paper mache before, you already know that this is going to be a messy project. So you just want to keep squishing it together until you have an even consistency. It's better than meatballs, but it's still a little gross. Eventually, this is all going to start to come together and be ready to use. Now that we have everything mixed up, we're ready to move on to the part where we're going to be making these paper mache pumpkins. I made some larger pumpkins as well as some smaller pumpkins around the size of a quarter. I just pulled a little off and rolled it into a ball. have a bunch of tools that I bought off of Amazon, and these are made for clay, but pretty much anything that you have on hand you can use to shape these pumpkins. These silicone tools have worked really well. Again, this kit was probably only about $12 on Amazon, but whatever you have, if you have a toothpick or you need something to pierce in the middle, this is where we're going to be inserting the stem of the pumpkin. And then you want to use your tool to go around and make some indentations to make this look like a pumpkin. I did about 6, I think. Once you start doing it, you definitely get the hang of it. And this is supposed to have more of a handmade look. It's not supposed to be perfect. Then I just go around again to press into these indentations and really make the creases of the pumpkin stand out. It doesn't take long to make these. If you sit there for 20 minutes, you can have a bunch made. Just piercing the center hole again. And now you can let these air dry. They do take a while. I like to pop these into a little oven, or you can cook them at about 230 degrees, maybe for about a half an hour. And then I just went ahead and painted them as soon as they came out of the oven. I used the brown in the indentations to help that stand out a little bit, and then I went around and painted it with the orange. Now that these are painted, we want to add the stem. And these are just some stems that I grabbed from outside from a tree. And I'm just using a little bit of Aleene's tacky glue to just add a little tiny glob in the middle. Then I add the stick and just clip it off to the height that I want. You can take a paintbrush and clean up any excess glue. can see the two different sizes that I made here, and I'm really happy with the way that they turned out. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use them for, maybe just for decorating. I'm also thinking about doing a garland